Who plays dice in the universe? Every moment we believe, and we believe in our abilities, in the people we love, in the ideology, in a religion, in a future, in a group of brothers. But the free man can and must modify his beliefs based on the new data and his experiences. And from then on, belief in the unprovable is acceptable and ultimately reprehensible. Of course, since ancient times, Democritus of the ancient Greeks used to say, "In truth, we understand nothing fixed, but only that which changes according to the condition of the body and the nature of the external influences, and the counter effects coming from within them. In our conventional everyday language, we speak of sweet, bitter, hot, cold, of colors, when in reality there are only atoms and emptiness." And this is what Vasilis Shletsu writes, a physicist. He says modern physics comes to advocate this view. For example, according to a hydrogen atom, there is an electron revolving around the atomic nucleus in an orbit with a speed of 6.5 times 10 to the 15th revolutions per second, covering in each revolution a distance of 4.24 times 10 to the 28 centimeters. If that is, we had the possibility to enlarge the hydrogen nucleus until it became 2 centimeters, the electron would be at a radius of 107.5 kilometers from the nucleus and would have to cover 775 kilometers to complete the turn around it. The electron moves at a very high speed in its orbit, which, however, is not constant. So basically, most of the atom, and therefore matter, is empty. All that exists and are particles in ultra-fast motion, which form the material forms and give us the feeling of a three-dimension and material reality. And Swim notes that it surrounds us and fills us with an immense void. We are more emptiness than created particles. We see this by examining one of our people. Nothing. Everything within the person is empty. We are more of a void than anything else. And indeed, if one were to remove all the empty space within us, we would wrinkle 1,000,000 times smaller than the tiniest grain of sand. Are we a nothing? An extension of nothing? It is paradoxical, but it seems that the ancients knew things as truth that science is now discovering, or has yet to discover, through rationality. Physicist Oppenheimer admits the basic principles followed by human thought lead us to the recent discoveries of atomic physics are not entirely unknown, nor original, nor new. Substantial elements of them exist in the context of the history and the thought of our own civilization, European, ancient Greek, but also extensive findings are easily found in the theoretical foundation of Buddhism and Hinduism. Thus, recent discoveries are nothing more than specializations and detailed expansions of the basic teachings of ancient wisdom. As did the physicist Niels Bohr. If we are interested in an analogy for formulating the atomic theory, we should look at the scientific problems posed many centuries ago by the great thinkers of the East, such as Buddha and Lao Tzu, since it was they who sought a harmonious correlation between our simultaneous positions as spectators, but also as actors in the great drama of existence. Today, the great scientist of the 21st century, Stephen Hawking, recognizes that the scientific method cannot access sizes smaller than the limit of the so-called Planck length size, which is extremely small, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30, 40, 0 times 40 zeros, 1616 millimeters. That concludes that past experiences teaches us that we will likely discover new unexpected phenomena whenever we extend our observation to smaller scales. According to esoteric philosophy, quote unquote, matter is infinitely divisible and hierarchically structured. The universe is the expression of divine thought. It is spirit, matter, and mind with a capital M. God's mind, that is. Consciousness comes from spirit. From matter come the vehicles or bodies of consciousness, and from the mind, capital M, come the laws and their application. The formation of life forms is based on these three fundamental conditions. There is a perpetual movement in nature which expresses the cosmic idea which is responsible for change and differentiation. The course of life through change is called evolution. Every change exists in force and appears as conditions permit. At the time when the individual was still considered indestructible by science, Blavatsky wrote in Mystic Doctrine, "The dogmatism of materialism declares that the acceptance of infinite divisibility is absurd and amounts to doubting the existence of matter." Well, materialism says that the individual is indivisible, and now see into what strange contradiction this fundamental principle leads the materialists. The atom is indivisible, and at the same time, we know that it is elastic. To attempt to remove its elasticity would be tantamount to absurdity. Absolutely inelastic atoms could exhibit not one of these innumerable phenomena attributed to their interactions. Without any elasticity, the atoms could not manifest their energy, and the matter of the materialist would remain powerless. Therefore, if the universe is made of atoms, then they must be elastic. It's here that we encounter an insurmountable obstacle. Why? What are those conditions required for the manifestation of elasticity? A plastic ball, when it hits an obstacle, expands and contracts, which it could not do if it were not composed of molecules whose relative positions undergoes, at the moment of impact, a temporary change. This could be said for elasticity in general. No elasticity is possible without a change in the position of the constituent parts of the elastic body. This means that the elastic body is and consists of molecules, or in other words, that elasticity can belong alone to those bodies which are divisible. On the science side, physicist Paul Davies says, God does indeed play dice with the universe. The statistical nature of nuclear events and the instability of many physical systems ensures that the future remains open and undefined by the present. This, the element of quantum uncertainty, makes it possible for new forms and systems to emerge, so that the universe is endowed with some freedom to innovate. The evolution of new forms and systems is subject to general organizing principles that guide and prompt rather than they force matter and energy to evolve in the direction of predetermined corridors of the evolutionary process. Again, in esotericism, manifested life is a path from spirit to matter. Behind all the manifestations of the sensible world, there is a primal force, a longing to return to the state of oneness in everything from whence all came and will end. An observation in nature proves that all creations, from central suns to single-celled organisms, are structured on the principle that energy in the universe is hierarchically based on the gradual gradation of the invisible to the visible, the one, that is, the God, to the multiplicity, and the spirit to matter. For example, at the center of our planet, Mother Gaia, the powerful forces at the center of her being are in the evolutionary stage of the cycle of fire. Next come the gaseous regions, when the regions of liquefied liquids, while the outer part is in the form of solid matter, upon which so many forms of life have been enabled to evolve, with the greatest being man, who is the connecting link between spirit and matter. The purpose of evolution is the course of consciousness through the shapes and types of different life, with the purpose of experience and the sole goal of conquering spiritual consciousness. A scientific article published in 1998 in Newsweek magazine pointed out that physicists have stumbled upon signs that the universe is tailor-made for the evolution of life and consciousness. When one considers that the laws of nature are specifically and minutely designed to produce the universe as we see it, inevitably leads to the conclusion that the universe did not appear this way for no reason, but has a purpose. David Bohm also argues that there is no such thing as inanimate matter. All matter is alive in some way, and to varying degrees. As physics probe deeper into the inner world of matter, nature does not show any individual tiny pieces of matter but instead reveals itself to us as a complex network of relationships between different aspects of a unified whole. The structure of matter is not at all mechanistic. The new physics says, as Capra says, it recognizes no fundamental entities, laws, or equations today. The universe is now seen as a dynamic network of interconnected events, and none of the components of any part of that network is fundamental. The fact that all the properties of particles are determined by principles directly connected to the methods of conscious observation means that the basic structures of the material world are ultimately determined by and depend on the way we see that world, and the observed associations of matter reflect the association of the mind. Consciousness is probably a fundamental aspect of the universe, which aspect should be included in any future theories of physical phenomena. Internal awareness is the ability to perceive the stimuli of one's environment and response to them. Self-awareness is the ability to perceive the phenomena of a field, the relationship with the causes that cause them, hence the relationship of cause and causality, and to act accordingly. Superconsciousness is the ability to perceive phenomena that belong to higher fields, the experience of all. What we call God is perceived only within the framework of reality and subjectivity. No one else can perceive divinity or reality exactly as each of us individually perceives it. It's good for the scientists not to talk about the energies of God until they have divine union with God. Otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about. That's my comment here. The introverted mystic seeks excluding the senses to dive into the depths of his own ego. The cause of Plotinus is typical, for whom the journey of the soul is a journey of self-discovery. Plotinus wrote, "The soul will reach not something else, but itself. Everything is within us." The rationality of science can therefore go hand in hand with esotericism. After all, it is no coincidence that many great scientists such as Einstein, Strategin, Jung were mystics. The problem exists when rationality excludes the unscientifically acceptable. An over-acceptance of rationalism sees science and technology as our greatest achievements. We exalt the ego as a center of existence. Everything now refers to the ego, the center of the individual self, and so we live our lives as if there is nothing beyond that. As Tolstoy mentions, man is like the numerical fraction, where the numerator is his real self, and the denominator the idea he has of himself. The larger the denominator, the smaller the value of the fraction. And as the denominator swells to infinity, so the fraction tends to zero. Modern man stubbornly lives in the material dimensions of reality, ignoring or devaluing its other dimensions. But as Einstein characteristically found, a human being is part of the whole, which we call the universe, a part limited in space and time. This captures himself, his thoughts and feelings apart from the rest, a kind of optical illusion of his consciousness. This illusion is a kind of prison for us, limiting us to our personal desires and the attraction of only a few people who are close to us. Our mission must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and of all nature in its beauty. In conclusion, I would like to note that an intelligent being would be expected to adapt himself to the world, and yet we insist on adapting the world to us. Perhaps, of course, this is why all progress is based on the absurd. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.